one of the things we're emphasizing a lot um, with our clients is sort of this future state where AIs behave a lot more like a marketplace rather than a channel. And so a lot more product shopping, discovery, and purchasing happens through AI. And how do you prepare for that? So, we've talked about sort of the value of having really rewarding and unique experiences for your customers on your site being kind of a key thing. Like there has to be a reason for someone to want to come to your site, even beyond sort of what they can encounter with AI. And there's sort of the inverse challenge of like when they are interacting with the AI and they are doing that sort of drill down in terms of shopping with your products, getting that accurate information and covering all sort of that conversation before your customer is also really important.
Jordan, I'm smiling right now because Jordan Brannon, Coalition Technologies, just did the intro for our podcast today.
We got it.
We got it. We're just going to roll into the show today. Welcome to The Conversion Show. As I mentioned, I'm sitting here with Jordan Brannon from Coalition Technologies. And today we're going to talk about zero-party data, capturing it through quizzes and surveys on site, and then what can be done with that data through AI optimization. Jordan just kind of led into it. We were discussing this prior to the show, and immediately my eyes lit up. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, Eric. I'm really excited to be here. And we've got definitely a lot of things just based on our pre-show chit chat. We've got a lot of things I think that we both have some issues that need to be scratched.
So AI, it's there's a lot of noise out there. And I think you're onto something very strategic and applicable that any retailer should be looking into. If we talk quiz survey, you mentioned that's something of interest for your firm that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's lead in with that, why you're interested in quizzes and surveys, and then what action items your team is taking with that data, and also what the future lies and why you're investing into this, because it sounds really interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, so feel free to interrupt me if I start to run long or you want to ask a follow-up. I think for a long time, digital marketers and marketers in general have been aware of the value of a solid survey, which is, why they've been around since probably when the telegram was there. Someone was probably, trying to figure out how to, maybe that's Morse code, I don't know. But it was trying to get a quiz and survey done that way, just because when you actually get feedback directly from your prospective customer or your actual customer about how they're engaging with your brand, where they're engaging with your brand, why they're engaging with your brand, you're starting to get a lot of really valuable intel to push back into that marketing experience. And so just from a straight marketing opportunity, it's enormous. But speaking in today's language and in today's experience, we're seeing a lot of value in those quizzes and surveys in sort of two fronts. One of them is the ability to create a really personalized experience on your site without necessarily having to do a lot of personalization. The more you get feedback directly from your customers about what they're looking for, you'll often find that a lot of them have shared interests, expectations, desires. And so you can actually start to pre-build these personalized experiences without necessarily even having that customer in front of you yet. Now, that's one good value. And I think the other piece is just the way that people are engaging with AI. We all start our prompt with ChatGPT and we say, hey, top of funnel question. I'm looking for a new paddleboard. What are some good brands that you'd recommend? ChatGPT throws in a handful of those for me just based on brand and reputation. I then ask okay, I'm an adult male. I weigh this much. I'm going to be on a lake in the Pacific Northwest, sort of narrow it down to a little bit more of my criteria. What's a good paddleboard you'd recommend from these? All of a sudden, I've got three options. I might ask hey, why are you recommending these options? How much do they cost? When can I get them? And all along the way, I'm asking questions that are probably going to invite the AI to respond with a technique that we call a fan out, where basically you ask one question and the AI tries and answers five. And if you're doing those quizzes and surveys right, all of a sudden you're addressing these different facets of that fan out that's happening with AI so that you get a more thorough, more accurate, and ideally a bit better response from the AI about your brand or product. And that helps you stand out as AIs are increasingly acting as this sort of filtration system to identify products or companies that someone may want to shop with. So those are the two big reasons that we're sort of seeing the value in quizzes and surveys today.
Sounds like your team's learning from ChatGPT and its structure and function, how people are interacting with surveys you're building for your clients.
Yeah, so exactly. So we're trying to look at, okay, so what's happening within ChatGPT around prompts? Again, we do a ton of digital marketing and big emphasis on SEO and pay-per-click, which are going to be very disrupted by AI search, whether that's because Google is doing more AI or ChatGPT is doing more search. Future will tell us, but we're doing a lot in those spaces. And so we really have to understand what's happening in AI. Where is that data coming from? Or when is it just even being made up? We're all familiar with hallucinations. And again, those quizzes and surveys, something we've done historically probably more for things like our email campaigns or SMS campaigns, loyalty efforts. We're actually seeing a lot of value now in sort of taking that and pushing it back to the top of funnel.
Can I ask you a question? If I put a survey on my site with those prompts and those questions, are they going to search those out?
That's a great question. Yeah, and the answer is yes. Obviously, you have to make sure you understand how it's coded in. Certain AIs don't like to deal with JavaScript. So plain HTML is always ideal to sort of have built around your content. But yes, I mean, the answer is absolutely yes. And this is actually a really fantastic spot to generate that AI-friendly content without having to pay for it yourself. You'll see that customer voices and customer comments, they just naturally tend to pick up on some of the language people are putting into prompts. I think that's part of the appeal of Reddit, right? You know, if you look at any AI response today, Reddit's probably going to be cited. It's that short form, snippy answer that someone gives, but that really speaks to the customer experience. Quizzes give you an opportunity to gather that same information, publish unique data sets that nobody else has access to, which again is a big draw for AIs today. And again, becomes a feedback loop, right back into the top of that AI funnel and marketing strategy.
I have a note here to speak with Travis about our surveys and quizzes, ensuring how we can leverage that. It's no different than, or build into the product, no different than when you write a blog post now, you do like the 5 FAQs inside the blog post. No different for your quiz surveys on your site. That's a great AIO hack tip right there.
Yeah, and even just a quick sort of extra sideline, make sure that those updated surveys are updating the date of a page, the date updated of a page, the date that the page has been published. We know that Google and others have a preference for recency. And so when you get an updated quiz, if that's feeding back and saying, hey, this is updated as of September 16th, which happens to be today's date, that actually can be really helpful as well. Just as, again, something that's automated or automated-ish, but does really help you actually to rank better or be positioned better in prompt responses.
We should store those survey answers to be crawled.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hashed, obviously. Privacy.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the importance of knowing what to ask, how to ask it. Now that we've asked the questions, let's hear the fun stuff.
Yeah.
What you're doing with that data, that zero-party data you've collected. Let's break that down.
Yeah, I mean, so again, there's just so much insight that you get. As when most of the time, here's sort of the typical picture we have when we work with an e-commerce merchant of scale. They designed their website 2 years ago. They worked with a very expensive, if they're mature brand and they're kind of e-commerce is maybe a sideline to their retail efforts. They worked with a big branding agency to sort of come up with this site experience. It referenced what was trendy and popular at the time, which was overly simplistic navigation 100% of the time. It's not super great on user experience. It's light on content. It is not super interactive. It's just big. We call them BFPs, big effing photos, and that's just sort of what you get. Now, when we jump in, of course, we're like, okay, you want to know why you're not making money off of this after 2 years. This is why. And so we start to go through this quiz and survey iterative process. We look at site experience questions. We look at brand expectation. We look at product expectation, content expectation, wants and desires. And the very first step is just, what does that tell us about how the site is experienced and navigated? How can the content be improved? Almost always, this is not just a UX thing. This is instantly becoming a marketing thing, right? Because there's so many aha moments when we're talking to brands. They're seeing that sort of customer feedback loop and they're going, we just really need to talk about the tactile experience of our fabric. Like we starting to do these surveys and we're seeing so many of our customers saying it's the feel on the hand of the fabric that really is a differentiator for them. And we don't touch on that, or we describe it in sort of a scientific, here's the particular mixture of polyester and whatever else that we put together to make these particular pants. And so all of a sudden there's aha moments that are coming out of marketing. Now, we also start to see the beginnings of great follow-up marketing campaigns. How do we recover carts that have been abandoned? How do we get the right discount in front of somebody in front of Black Friday, Cyber Monday? So there's just a lot that you can start to unpack with a good quiz and survey sort of cadence. And you want to become mature at this. I think it's a super important skill for digital marketers to be developing and working on. The better you can do your quizzes and surveys and the better you understand how to ask them and when to ask them, it'll really unlock a lot of other things for you.
You had mentioned prior AI optimized content and prompt responses leveraging the zero-party data. Would you mind sharing more thoughts on that?
Sure. So when you look at what happens, again, we'll just kind of look at a basic explanation of AIs. They are your overly confident, overly knowledgeable friend with a hobby that is exactly aligned with your prompt query, right? So if you've ever gone to ChatGPT, Eric is a big fan of his AirPods or not. We were just talking about that before our call, and you drop in a prompt about like, hey, best set of AirPods, whatever that thing happens to be. All of a sudden you get this long response, links out, product photos. It's just like if you had a hyperactive friend who's just super excited to tell you about AirPods, right? It's like, I'm so glad you asked. I've been waiting years for someone to ask me that question. But all of that data has to come from someplace. And a lot of times that data is being pulled in from obscure sources because nobody is really addressing these things comprehensively. And so you'll get one review on a single Amazon product page that becomes the source of truth around a particular product. And so you get this sort of incredible insertion of, this small piece of content. Now, when we take that zero-party data in, again, thinking like sort of an AI marketer, we're thinking, okay, I want to address that fanning out of concepts and related ideas that are going to feed back to a product evaluation inquiry with a ChatGPT or Google AI mode or Gemini. How do I sort of build those pieces back in? How do they fit together on a page? How do I present them on a page so that the AI is able to go to my site, jordansairpods.com, and now has all sorts of information about waterproofing and AirPods that will put up to a kid who's chewing on them, something like that. And we're able to have all of that information contained inside of one of our client product pages. Quizzes and first-party data really start to speak to that because usually what ends up happening is a review. A lot of reviews, actually, if you read them, they are written specifically to tell someone else about what somebody missed in writing that product description as a marketer or a merchandiser. The same thing happens with zero-party data. When you get those quizzes going, a lot of our quizzes and surveys, what people are telling us when we give them a chance to, have comment is the thing that we missed in the quiz or the survey, or the thing that we missed in our marketing or merchandising. And that becomes really valuable for that AI content strategy that we were talking about.
So with the quiz survey data you're bringing in, you're leveraging that to understand content for your AIO strategies?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Again, because part of this is that marketers and brand merchandisers, we get into a narrow field of vision about what the selling point of our product is and how to sell it. And the reality is that usually is based on what we were trained when we first were hired, or it was based on what was popular in driving things 2 years ago. So we're just out of date and kind of working behind the gun.
So you're not learning how to remarket back to that specific client, say with email marketing, because you now understand they're into a stand-up paddleboard, they're into North Pacific, etc. This alternative real motive here is understand what you've missed, what the client has missed to communicate about their product on the product page, so that when it gets crawled, the answers are there for when someone's doing to answer the prompts.
I would say that the beauty is actually in the yes and, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, like this is where zero-party data is much better than you idioting on your own marketing ideas, right? Where when someone comes in and they give me this input, it becomes top of funnel content, but it also becomes a remarketing strategy, right? If someone came in and they told me they were looking for an adult paddleboard that's very stable because they're going to be using it at the coastline on an ocean, that is a remarketing campaign and an abandoned cart recovery email and content that I want to make sure that ChatGPT is discovering. And so that's really where that becomes multiplied in value.
Yeah. And I think that third component is really the new one, remarketing, obviously, but understanding the content.
Yeah.
So how do you do that at scale? Do you just focus on your core top 10% products that are driving revenue and start there? Are you doing it site-wide?
Yeah,
What's
it
the
depends a
approach?
little bit on client budget, right? I mean, there's always going to be a question of how much time do you have and how much money do you have? If you're paying for those remarketing activities through Google Ads or through Meta, there's a cost associated with that. If you're a small team and maybe you're working with an agency to try and optimize a few different marketing campaigns, you can't do everything at once and you don't necessarily need to. So I would often start with what is more popular, more trafficked, more purchased, simply because you're going to have a chance to gather more meaningful insights more quickly, right? If you're running a survey on a product you've sold once in the last 3 years, and that's your focus, guess what? You're going to get very little in terms of response. But if you're selling, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those products every day, and you have the time to gather that data, look at it, and again, AI can be helpful in looking at it, turn it back into something you can use. There's opportunities, I think, for this to be happening a lot faster and across a lot bigger body of products than maybe what we could have done 2 years ago.
So I like this. We're kind of digging into the structure of a survey with the end goal thought of understanding prompt responses.
Yep.
So let's talk about building. Let's go full circle here and talk about, hey, I need to build. This makes sense. I get a remarket and I get to optimize my site for AIO. Okay, I want to run a survey. So would you recommend, let's just say again, the same analogy of stand-up paddleboards, going to to ChatGPT, and which isn't that insane? So Google's done, right? It's all about ChatGPT. Go there and start trying to search for your product, or what would you recommend? Or how does your team approach it?
Yeah, we actually try and do this from an exploratory standpoint. So anytime we're talking to a new prospect or a new client, there is that, I'm going to ask some dumb top of funnel questions here. Tell me about brand X. What is their top product? What are they best known for? Is there anything I should be concerned about if I'm thinking about buying with them? What has other people's experience been with their shipping? Going through this sort of list and saying like, okay, I'm going to act like just a consumer who is really kind of wanting to buy something. And I'm now talking to an AI about, why I should or shouldn't do that. And there's really good discovery that you're going to get there. You're going to have some actionable insights for your reputation management. You're going to have actionable insights for your review generation and review publishing, maybe through a little bit of PR, a little social. So there's just a lot that you're going to find out that way. But as you're going, again, one of the things to be paying attention to, don't look for that first sentence answer, right? Most of us, our default when we go to Google search, we read the AI overview, we read the first sentence, click on the first link. When we go to ChatGPT, read the first sentence, click on the first link. But ChatGPT, Google AI overviews, they have a lot of extra content that keeps going. And so when, again, thinking from that marketer, thinking from that remarketing standpoint, keep reading. What is the number 2 most important thing that ChatGPT or Google thinks needs to be told about a brand? I did this with a customer on a screen share. And the second most important thing outside of sort of brand reputation was shipping timing and shipping cost. And ChatGPT put a big emphasis on those 2 things in telling me about a particular product. And it almost drowned out this prospect we were talking to because they weren't shipping as fast and they weren't shipping as cheaply as the other one. And so it was a weird thing because ChatGPT said, our prospect we were talking to should have been top of mind. And actually in that first sentence got top of mind recognition. But then immediately ChatGPT sort of buried them and said, but if you were looking to get this in the next couple of days, this particular competitor of theirs has inventory on hand in several different warehouse locations across the US and will ship next day. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, and then they get a whole paragraph just about their brand because of some of the reviews that have been written about that shipping experience for this competitor.
Jordan, I'm just shaking my head because the number 1 reason for cart abandonment remains today is shipping.
Oh yeah.
Communicating shipping. And that's a perfect example of Guess what, people? We don't need AI to increase your sales today because 99.9% of websites can be optimized better just to cover the basics of what's needed in e-commerce and speaking towards consumer psychology needs.
And what was interesting for me with this experience was how the AI addressed fast shipping. Because what it said was they actually pulled this like kind of random text highlight off of the competitor about us page. I mean, literally the about us page, which nobody really optimizes anymore. And it said we have 5 locations and we have 10,000 products in stock, and 95% of our shipments ship next day. On their product pages, they had next day shipping. They had all of the normal stuff. But ChatGPT ignored that and went to this thing and said, like, hey, I'm going to make a big deal about this brand because of some of this. Again, it's that fan out mindset. It doesn't just say fast free shipping. It says extra locations, so many products in stock, so many can ship next day. And that's what ChatGPT loves, was that ability to sort of expand the knowledge sharing that it gets that hyped up expert friend that you're working with.
I mean, if we were to dig into cart abandonment just a little bit, because I know you mentioned it a few times before, and for myself, that's a big subject that I'm discussing these days because it's the biggest opportunity in retail right now. Real-time cart abandonment. Why are people abandoning your site? Let's send less cart abandonment emails and close more business. I wrote down, act like a consumer.
Mm-hmm.
My number one recommendation I provide to people is go shop your website. When was the last time you went and purchased from your website, A? And B, how do you shop? I personally, if I'm shopping a brand and they haven't built my trust, I will go look for that product on Amazon and see if that brand has a store on Amazon specifically, because I know I trust their shipping.
I mean, and it's absolutely like we had again, new client kicking off with us, 2 years of downturn in terms of their SEO outcomes. Big national brand in personal healthcare, very recognizable to most people. And they're looking at their site and they're saying, why are we getting just tanked? I mean, like, why is this we're not doing anything bad by Google's sort of standard. We think we've done it pretty well, but we're getting, train wrecked basically. And the answer was that Amazon has a lot more of the content that is important to get that add to cart done than their website does. Their website is a branding piece. It is not an informational piece. It is not an address a customer concern piece. And it really was backfiring on them. So when we get to like that abandoned cart place, there's sort of the thing we always want to start with is how much of the abandoned carts are real abandonments. So meaning a lot of those are bots today. With all of the crawling and pricing, there's a lot of effort by AIs to discover all of your promotions, and they will go all the way to the cart to try and figure that out. And so first you want to be able to filter out the bots. There's a big news story developing in the SEO world right now just about sort of how much of search traffic is actually bot traffic. And so understand that as much as you can. Once you get underneath that, you sort of have a perspective of like, out of 100 abandoned carts, 30 of them are actual customers. And inside of those, again, it's a very odd behavior to add to cart and not purchase, right? Actually, and this is something I challenge a lot of marketers with. It's weird. If you think about all of the times that you've added to cart and you have not purchased, it is significantly smaller than all of the times that you've added to cart and purchased, right? And that's a big thing where you have to start to evaluate, okay, if someone is not adding to cart and purchasing, you have given them a reason not to purchase inside of your cart or inside of your checkout, and you need to figure out what that is.
It drives me nuts when I have to add an item to the cart and go to checkout just to figure out shipping.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a question for you. Have you done any work with Shopify's shop promise?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is there a response to answer? Is there a response to Amazon shipping timeline information?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, so Shopify is really keen on this, and I think there's a few good reasons for it. When you look at sort of the market as the land sort of lays today, you've got Amazon, you've got Walmart, and you have really Shopify behind that. And because of their number of stores, because of the number of products, because of the number of brands using it, they really are sort of this dark horse third category. And I think there's been expectations that they were cozying up with OpenAI. I really do expect in that era when AI becomes a channel, moves from a channel to being a marketplace, that Shopify relationship becomes really important because it's a payment gateway, because it's a set of promotions, because it's gift cards, because it's, shipping options. I really do think like there's going to be a state where that shop promise becomes an even bigger deal as you move forward and people begin to actually make those purchases happen inside of AIs.
Yeah, I feel like it's a feature product set that hasn't gotten the love that it deserves.
Yep.
I'm really kind of surprised. Hopefully it becomes more common. You mentioned, the future state from a channel to a marketplace. What do you say we wrap up our session with hearing about your thoughts on the future of
Sure.
these marketplaces and what your vision is of it?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's really important for businesses to understand that the AI model that's operating today is not profitable. It's not sustainable. And they're massively expensive, right? So they have to have some change here that's going to allow them to monetize what they're doing more effectively. Ads are a piece of that. OpenAI has talked about a kind of a pseudo affiliate model where every transaction they drive to your site, they take 3% of. That has problems in terms of the trust, right? If we know that OpenAI is always taking a percent of transaction, it becomes a bit more like an affiliate website in general. And I think that model may not be sustainable. So there's some evolution that's going to happen there. And I expect that OpenAI will land in a place similar to Amazon with third-party sellers, where you pay for marketing fees within that platform. You also are paying them a percent of each transaction for their network, customer access, whatever they want to refer to that as. And so I think the end state will be that as we get to a true top of funnel to bottom of funnel AI experience with everything from discovery to purchase happening in one place, we'll really start to see more of that Amazon 3PL experience. I don't know that OpenAI will ever be warehousing products like Amazon does, but I do expect that they're going to get a lot closer to Amazon than further away. That means that you're going to have to sell your product and your brand through a marketplace rather than through your website. That also means that you've got to find reasons to make your brand site experience so appealing to a customer that it's worth joining. There's conversations about loyalty, about content exclusives, product exclusives, things like that, which I think come into play here. But you really have to start thinking about my site right now is sort of a catch-all for a lot of different consumers. In the future, it's likely going to be a place of loyalty, a place of preserving relationship with customers and prospects alike. And so that's sort of the future state we're looking forward to.
I wrote down education, exclusiveness, loyalty, relationships with the brand website. And I mean, that's what should be there today, period, for consumer needs and building that trust for them. Jordan, I love your take. I mean, it makes sense. And my immediate thought is, I wonder if OpenAI they have the ability to do it, just building affiliate accounts for every store. Who's to say they're not appending affiliate links to every link they're dropping out right now?
Yeah, I mean, there is that tracking parameter is already being passed. So, when I go into Google Analytics, one of the first things we do with a new client, we actually would love to offer that to listeners of the Conversion Show. We'll set up a free dashboard inside of Analytics, so you can actually see what traffic and conversions are coming from those big AIs. But they are passing that data now. They've also done a couple other things to watch out for. They've allowed you to submit a shopping feed in a beta program. You have to apply to get into it. This is with OpenAI, to submit your shopping feed there. Now, Shopify already has a shopping feed connector to OpenAI. So that's already present if you're on Shopify. But for non-Shopify brands, there is sort of this opt-in moment of like, hey, we'd love for you to carry our products. And I think they'll be able to do a lot more of that. There's going to be a listing experience, probably similar to Google product listings, that'll be public soon. And just again, maybe, I don't know when this will go live, I'm betting on that happening before Black Friday. So before November 1st, I'm expecting a more meaningful shopping experience to be live in OpenAI. I think it'll be a winner for them in terms of stock price. And I think it's just the exact right moment now. I think they have the technology, they have the data and information. They've got a month and a half to bring that live in some way. So I would fully expect to see OpenAI as a meaningful participant in BFCM this year.
Okay, let's finish up with two key things you just said. Can you speak further to the connector in Shopify for any Shopify listeners right now? That sounds very interesting if you're not aware of it. And then we'll wrap up with this free dashboard setup. We'd love to hear more about that for our listeners.
Sure. Yeah. So if you are on Shopify today, Shopify is already a product shopping search partner of OpenAI. So that happened, I think, back in May, a little bit quietly. I actually was a little surprised it didn't get more airplay. I think at the time we were expecting a bigger partnership to roll out. So your product data, if you are opted into, Shopify distributing your product, is already being fed into OpenAI. So you should start to see it if you're doing some searches. You'll see a lot more Shopify stores being surfaced in that shopping carousel type experience that we see a little more frequently. So that should be there for you. It's a benefit already of being with the largest e-commerce platform out there. Again, I expect that partnership to expand, especially as OpenAI wants more wallet share and not just discovery share. And then the offer on the dashboard. So it's a free, something we'd love to do for you that adds value, especially if you're trying to track the impact that your marketing is having in AIs. We'll set up an analytics dashboard and report specifically for you that allows you to see how your traffic is changing across time in most of your big AI tools. So whether that's ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude, we'll get that set up for you so you can start to actually see that in a sort of isolated and cleaned up widget and dashboard for you. And it's also, if you have that data already in analytics, it's historic, so you'll actually be able to look back a little bit more readily and easily inside of Google Analytics 4.
That's an awesome offer, Jordan. Thanks so much. So Jordan Brannon, Coalition Technologies. I took some really good notes here, and I already have some things I'm going to be posting out just from our conversation. And I'm going back talking with Travis about our surveys and quizzes. You inspired me there.
Yeah.
Any for the free dashboard setup, where might our listeners find that?
So easy one, just shoot me an email, jordan@coalitiontechnologies.com. I'll get you introduced to the strategy team who can help with that particular process. You can also find me on LinkedIn under Jordan Brannon. So that's another great option. Or just hit us up, coalitiontechnologies.com. You could also test us and just do a quick best SEO company query or prompt into ChatGPT or Google. Chances are any place in the world, you'll actually see us showing up there as one of the recommended companies to work with.
There you go. All right.
A little flex.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I hope everyone enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next episode.